Well,
Moderator, Jeff may need to be unmuted. The last four digits of his number are 1418. Moderator, Jeff
Yep.
may need to
Yep.
be unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
all right, Jeff, what we need you to do is to, the Village Creek approval that we did for the expansion of the docks. Can you read that language back into the minutes, please?
Well, I got to find it first. We would be reiterating our previous, the pre-application language.
Correct.
And the only thing that we wanted to be sure about was that there was no violation and when I looked at the draft permit, there's no reference to a violation or a resolution or any sort of notice or fine. Just give me a second. I've got it. Just take me a second. All right. So our letter was March 9th, and the had no objection to the application be included or no objection to the applicant's pre-application plans being included in an application to DEEP, reserved the right to continue to review it. We made it, we stated the policy that we support continued beneficial operation of water-dependent facilities supporting recreational boating, including the facilities specifically of the Village Creek Harbor Corporation. And we supported expansion provided there would not be any significant adverse impacts. And then we had the discussion about unpermitted structures, and that we discouraged after the fact authorization. But we understood that when the unauthorized work here was identified by the applicant took remedial action right away, notified DEEP, and that there was no notice of violation issued by DEEP. So therefore, we would have no objection to this. So in looking at the proposed draft permit, just to clarify, there is no outstanding violation or any fine or anything of that sort. And if that's the case, then I think we could say that this proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan, not just say no objection, but consistent with the plan, because it provides for the continued beneficial operation of a water-dependent facility supporting recreational boating.
Somebody want to make that motion?
But first, is it clear, Chris, that there is no outstanding violation
sorry,
or any?
There's no outstanding violation. That's correct.
Yeah. Then I think the motion would be as I mentioned.
Sorry, folks. When was there a call to order? And was that was also to be read into the minutes?
Yes.
Great. So I have a recording of it, but you haven't called the meeting to order yet. That's my cue.
Okay. Plan review meeting is hereby called to order. And the
John, it's application review.
Yes, application review. So do you need him to read it into the minutes again?
If I could ask everyone to speak as loudly as possible, yes.
But you do need it read into the minutes again. So Jeff, would you reiterate the motion, please?
I think that the commission would find that the proposed approval for the Village Creek boating facility is consistent with the harbor management plan because it provides, excuse me, for the continued viability of an existing water-dependent use providing recreational boating facilities. And we transmit that finding to DEEP with the understanding that there are no outstanding violations on the site.
Someone want to make that motion? Alan makes the motion. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And being that we're in a combined meeting,
Sorry, who was the second?
John Crespo.
John,
John Crespo. Thank you.
being that
Chris
we're in a
McDonald,
combined,
I have to, what do you call it? Recuse myself from this as the
And we-
applicant.
and that we do have a quorum.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask if there, and so this vote will count as if it was in the regular meeting. Any objections to the motion? And when we have one abstention, Chris McDonald.
Recusal for the record.
Cruz. Hi, John, I'm present here.
Okay,
Oh, good,
Okay.
John.
All right.
so that motion is passed, so I'll turn it over to you, Pinto.
Right, so that was the Village Creek, right?
Right,
Yeah, the other application that was on the DEP's website was the application for 69 Bluff. All right, and again, that was a pre-application before. It was an application submitted by John Hiltz. And the proposal that I have is to reiterate because there was no changes that were made to that proposal, pre-application, and to revisit our previous comments. And I can read those comments that we submitted back in December 11th, 2019. And let's see. And again, I think this is an application, Steve, that the Shellfish Commission responded to as well, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, and so we have the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission understands that the comments from the Shellfish Commission regarding the applicant plans are forthcoming. They were submitted, right?
Correct.
They've addressed those issues. All right, in the policy of the Harbor Management Commission that no float or vessel attached to the float shall rest on the bottom of the harbor management area during the normal tide cycle. And if the proposed work requires work barges and construction vessels, the applicant should notify the harbor master of the use of any work vessel, barges, and work-based equipment needed to undertake the proposed project, including debris removal. Stationing of vessels and water-based equipment will be subject to directions provided by the Norwalk Harbor Master needed to maintain safe and efficient operation in the Norwalk Harbor and to avoid adverse impacts of shellfish resources, including but not limited to adverse impacts caused by stationing equipment overnight or at low tide. So I know that they've addressed those issues, and I would recommend that we go with the same response as our previous letter.
I've got something to add, John.
Yeah.
Because when we looked at this, we didn't realize that in addition to building whatever the dock, they're authorized or required to remove an unauthorized concrete walkway and riprap. Now, we didn't know that there was a violation on this site, and I think that along with the comments of reiterating what we previously said, we want to reiterate our previous comments made a number of times to DEEP that if there is a violation on properties and a notice of violation, that the Harbor Commission should receive a copy of that notice, because that allows us to be involved in, or if we wish to be involved, any discussions about fines imposed on the applicant, right, and hopefully influence those fines to go not to the state general fund, but to some sort of environmental project in Norwalk Harbor. But we didn't know when we reviewed this that there was unauthorized work here. So I think we want to address that in some way. We reiterate the previous comment that the recreational boating facility is okay, but I think we want to say something about making sure that DEEP notifies us of violations.
Well, I think we have previous statements regarding that as well. That any
we said that before, but we didn't hear anything about this one.
No. What I'm saying is that we can add that. Certainly, yes, I agree. We can add that to our.
And to his credit, they did have the plans prepared signed by a professional engineer, as we had asked them to do in the pre-application phase.
All right. So with those comments.
And what about the Shellfish Commission, John?
Well, that's what I asked Steve about. Steve,
at the time, we said that we knew the comments from Shellfish were forthcoming.
Right. Right. I asked Steve if those comments were responded to.
Yeah, we submitted them.
Yes.
All right. All right.
All right, well, with that wording, we'd like to have a motion to accept the proposal that we have. I mean, actually the wording that we have for that, the applicant, as in the previous letter that we sent to him, with the addition of the necessary fine, if there is a fine.
Reiterate the previous the comments, and then also reiterate our previously submitted request that notices of violation be provided to the harbor management. Any notices of violation affecting properties in the harbor be also provided to the Harbor Management Commission from DEEP.
Right, we'll add. Yeah, I have wording in previous documents that states that. We'll add that to this document. Would anyone like to make a proposal? We have Chris and we have Alan.
I'll make the motion that this move forward.
A second.
Okay. And all's in favor? Now, John, are we going to use this as a
Yes, John, it's the most expedient way altogether.
Yeah, no,
We do have a quorum.
Okay.
Let's make this a combined meeting and let it flow from this meeting into the next. And while we're all together, let's vote on these items as they come up.
All right. So then this will be actually for the response for the entire commission. No, I agree.
Excuse me, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
I
Tony.
think we should suspend the rules and combine this meeting and then start the official meeting with the roll call.
John?
Whatever, from a functional standpoint, then I make a motion that we suspend the rules, number one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Not seeing none, unanimously, we're suspending the rules. And what we're asking for is to combine both these meetings so that they flow from one into the other, and that all votes taken within the application review committee meeting hold true for the
Full commission.
full commission.
Yes, and may I suggest that we start the full commission meeting with the roll call and the pledge and all that, so that it's an official meeting.
We can do that.
Okay, good.
All right, so let me call the combination meeting, which we approved with the suspension of the rules to order. And Steve, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag
of the United
United
States of
States of
America
America,
and to the
To the
republic
republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and with
with
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
all.
Okay. So what we will do now is to commence within the combined meeting, to continue with the application review.
All right. So we had two applications. These were previous applications that were submitted. We responded to them in a pre-application letter. And what we're doing now is responding to the full application as we requested in that previous letter, that we reserve the right to review the application when it gets submitted for public comment. And this is what we're doing right now. So the previous document was Creek. We voted on unanimously to recap what we had responded to last time, and the same thing with Bluff Avenue, 69 Bluff Avenue. So that will then go in the minutes to show that we have agreed to comment, and then with the added caveat that with regard to the violation, and to alert the Harbor Commission with regard to any potential previous violation on that particular property. That was 69 Bluff Avenue. So we'll go with the ones in favor of those two motions that we made then, right? Those were passed. The last one is the meeting itself on the agenda. It was 8385 South Water Street. This was, we received this application previous to that. This was submitted by Play LLC. And so I sent this application out to everyone. This is a request by the new owners, which is the new operator, which is District Sono, that had taken over for Play LLC, and it's basically keeping the same venue. There's just some slight modifications to that particular application, and the application, what the applicant proposes to change is the types of programs and venues offered within the building, and then the change was the allocation of space dedicated to the various tenants within the building, and lastly, they were going to change. The change also includes an increase in the commercial footage that is within inside the building, but in the outside the building is a reduction in spaces for the new tenant. And also was the demand for parking for the entire building will decrease from 211 spaces that we originally commented on to 205 spaces. Right? And then included in the modified application are changes to the anticipated sewer usage on the property. And that was also made comment. I think I sent that around to you. Ralph Klob, engineer from this senior environmental engineer with the city of the North Pollution Control Authority, sent in 3 comments. And those 3 comments covered, again, the existing sewage area, sanitary sewer, and proposed sewage flow calculations, and again, fats, oils, and grease program with regard to some of the buildings that are the tenants with regard to capturing of, I guess, and they have a food mart present. So those were questions that were submitted by the city's engineer. We'd like to go with our same proposal with regard to what we had presided last time, and I'll read that comment to you. That the comments with regard to this was 85. They had 85 to 89 previously. This new application is 8385, and I'm not sure if I understand what the difference is there, but that was from both the 2 applications.
When I was downstairs, you know what? Everybody paid. I made sure everybody.
Hey, guys, I'm on a conference call, so if you could take that somewhere else, please.
Okay. So the comments that we had previous to this application is that in general, the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission is concerned about the potential adverse impacts of stormwater runoff from impervious parking areas that drain into Norwalk Harbor. The Norwalk Harbor Management Commission the Harbor Management Plan calls for protection and improvement of water quality in the harbor and supports appropriate best management practice to avoid or otherwise mitigate non-point source pollution. The Harbor Commission supports implementation of runoff reduction and impact development practices pursuant to the city's stormwater management requirements, and the applicant is required to employ appropriate best management practices during the construction and renovation of the 85 Water Street to ensure that the proposed work, including removal of any debris, does not cause any significant adverse impact on environmental quality, including water quality in Norwalk Harbor. And what we had put here before is due to increased patronage of cars parked in the area, the applicant should assure that the parking facilities that are used have appropriate measures to reduce or otherwise manage stormwater runoff from the property. And the zoning commission should impose appropriate conditions for approval on assurances that catch basins, sump pumps, oil grit separators, and filtration systems are properly maintained on properties that will be used by the applicant for parking. Those were our previous comments.
Yeah, Doc, on the previous application, and that was supposed to be an adult type entertainment facility, and also there were, part of it was a slew of, or I don't know, what do you call a gaggle of food trucks? Is
Yeah.
it a gaggle?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right.
But I think that has changed somewhat, where they're going to have more interior built food places, and
That was my take on that. Yes.
yeah,
And I think that was why the increase in area inside the building.
right.
changing the tenant mix.
Which is fine from our perspective. I don't see any real issues. Do you or anyone else?
They still plan to have food carts outside the building.
Yeah.
Along the, around, I think around Elizabeth Street.
Jeff?
John, do we know for sure that they are, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, that they are including new stormwater management
They had,
facilities or?
I don't have that in front of me, but they did have a stormwater report on that. I don't
You know,
know.
what are they proposing to do though? Are we sure that what they propose is an improvement over what's on the site now?
That I didn't, wait a minute. Let me see if I can.
Because that affects, you know, if we know that they're improving stormwater management and that there's going to be less discharge to the harbor, then conceivably we could say that this is consistent with the harbor management plan. But if it's nothing much different, or we're not sure, then maybe all we say is we have no objection with the understanding that there won't be any significant impact on the harbor.
Well, I think that
I don't think they have. I think it's mostly paving. It was retail space for furniture before, and it's mostly paved lots. I don't think they have much green space there. If anything, it's limited.
well, I'd have to pull up the application. I don't have that in front of me here.
And what is it? Do we know what the schedule is for the zoning board to have a hearing on this? Did it just come about?
They did have a hearing. There was an objection or concerns about the axe throwing venue I read in the paper.
Oh, that's right. They were planning to have an axe throwing venue.
Oh, that's the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have, when we looked at this at first, did we have a representative of the applicant come in and or address this?
First time we did.
I think it was Liz Succi that presented it.
Such a yes.
Yeah, the previous proposal had 8 bowling lanes, and I guess now there's 8 axe throwing alleys.
Yeah. But I don't know that we really care about that, but it's just it's the impact on the harbor.
It's really the outside, and that is the parking area and drainage system that they have.
The drainage system, yeah.
The parking is across the street, correct?
Yes, on the water side of Water Street, yes.
Correct, shared with the bakery and the seafood restaurant across the street.
Parking lot, that's that parking lot right there, that's correct.
So are they proposing any improvements? Proposing any improvements to that, or is that?
They were planning catch basins.
Okay.
Catch basins though isn't treating or holding anything. It's just getting the water off quicker.
Here,
I wish I had this.
Hold on. Let me see if I have. I don't see, wait a minute.
Well, they're talking about the lot at 19 Day Street.
Yes.
Is that a new lot? I don't know if it's part of the, I'm not familiar with that parking lot. That's the street behind it, parallel to South Waters. Oh, Water Street. There's no South Water Street.
Let's see.
So this letter of transmittal to you is June 23rd. So that's over a month ago. So I guess the hearing is probably
this letter
coming up.
This was received not too long ago, Jeff, by me.
From Liz Succi.
From Liz Succi.
From Attorney Succi, I'm sorry.
This is
modification.
estimated row comparison of traffic. That's true. I'm not interested in summary. I can, the only thing is I didn't see that there. I thought that was there because I did see documents come through in piecemeal to me. And I thought I saw an environmental, for the drainage system that they had proposed. They have the traffic.
Steve Kleppen is not participating in the meeting tonight, is he?
I don't think so.
Or Brian, okay.
No, Brian's not away. Brian's away. They have noise. They have traffic. I didn't see I thought I saw the water. Well, here that's the only thing they had here is the sewage flow calculations. Here.
That goes to DEP, right? For DPW for the sewer. It's they're going into the sewer line, right?
I think perhaps we could say that if there is a time constraint here with the hearing, that we could say the commission has no objection to it, provided that the engineering department determines that it meets all city requirements for stormwater management, and that the redevelopment will improve stormwater management on the site.
Yeah, it's P&Z and DPW are going to have their own requirements. So
they have the only thing that they've addressed here, Jeff, that I saw, and that's probably what I was referring to, was the in the letter from Rose Tissot and Company, was the architectural surveyors, engineers to the city of Norwalk, which was dated in May. They indicate here that the the change actually takes place with Sono, the District Sono was the new owners now, is the changes of use mixed results in a reduction in the proposed sewage flow from 9,800 gallons per day proposed by the Sono Play, and 5,000 to 5,000 gallons per day by the District Sono includes, I guess that includes some of the additional spaces that they had. Therefore, the proposal will have a lesser sewage usage than the previous approach.
That's sanitary sewer, but our interest is
right. Our interest was
stormwater.
I didn't see that. And
I don't see that either in here.
And I'll check with Attorney Secchi on that.
All right.
Attorney Secchi's letter from June 24th just says the parking resources on Water Street and Day Street will remain dedicated to the 8385 Water Street building and all uses within it.
Right. They don't mention any particular change to that.
I don't know if there were any plans to make any modifications to the parking facilities in the previous presentation.
No, I didn't hear you on that.
Did the previous set of plans have any work done in the parking areas for stormwater control?
No, all they were going to do is keep the status quo with regard to the runoff on that I recall. I can go back and get that original application too. Let's see. How do we get back here? You want to take a look at the previous app?
I don't have a set of plans, the full set of plans. I just don't know if the plans show any modifications to the parking. That was really the question.
I can contact on that with regard, but like I said, we can go ahead and make a motion on that. These changes would. That I don't see here in this letter, in this application, other than the addressing of the sewage, volume of sewage, which was addressed by Ralph Kolb. No. So, like I said, we can go. As I said, we can go with the previous, with the caveat that. Oh my God. We can go with the previous statement that we had, again, with that following caveat with regard to water runoff in the parking area.
I don't think we want to say it's consistent with the harbor management plan,
With the harbor management.
only that, we don't want to say that, John.
I
I
know.
don't think.
No, we don't.
I don't think we know what the
say-
parking lot situation is, do we? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
part of the,
The only changes that take place is that there's less parking spaces. They go from 211 to 205 available spaces for that building. That's usually a drop in the bucket compared to this. So. Well, we got to make a decision somewhere.
Well, not to belabor this, but John, what was the date of the letter, the original letter that we sent? For the previous application.
It was March 3rd. No, not March 3rd. I'm sorry. No, that was March. Hold on. Here it is. It was December 26th.
December 26th of last year,
Hold on.
not the year before.
No, it was December 26, 2018.
That's why I couldn't find it. All right.
2018. Yeah. That was the letter. That was the original letter that was sent. That was the previous owners.
Mm-hmm.
John,
Yes.
is it possible to approve what we know at this point?
Yeah.
The concerns, the contingent part of the final approval?
I don't see why not. Again, we're not saying that's consistent with the plan,
Right.
but to move forward with their project, because it still has to be reviewed. This one here is just a modification of the change that took place from the previous owner, which was Play LLC, to District Sono. That's just that they were just commenting on just those few changes with regard to parking spaces, the inside space. We're concerned only about the parking area.
We might be able to pursue that later after the initial approval.
That's what I said. We can go with our previous comments with the idea that we reserve the right to review the application when it goes up for further public comment.
If, at such time as it goes to a public hearing,
Yeah.
reserve the right to provide additional comments as we get additional information.
Right.
But the understanding would be that we have no objection to it
Moving
at
forward.
this time, provided
Right.
that the city determines that it meets the stormwater requirements and that it will provide an improved stormwater management situation on the properties utilized.
I think
Something like that.
we have that. We have that in that fourth statement that we had.
All right.
That we have appropriate measures to reduce or otherwise manage stormwater runoff from the property, and should impose appropriate conditions for sort of approval of assurances that, again, catch basins and sump pumps, et cetera, or oil grid separators be in place.
is that all right that the parking is not on this property that's in this proposal?
What do you mean as far as? I don't know if they're leasing that parking. I don't know who owns that parking lot. But that's what they have available to them apparently. I don't know if they're paying.
That parking lot is under review for a zone change too, from that parking lot all the way up to 107. I think that might be 96 or 86 or something.
Not
That's
sure.
right. That's the presentation we had the time before last, 2 months ago.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know who owns that or if they're leasing that property and paying rent as far as the parking spaces are concerned. I don't know that.
The application for zoning includes parking lot number 1 and parking lot number 2.
I'm sorry, Alan, I didn't.
The zoning application includes, it has the 85 to 89 Water Street, and also noted on the side is parking lot number 1 and parking lot number 2 that are on the zoning application.
Well, yeah, right. That's right. That was part of their zoning application. But I think right now, all we need to do is to come up with some of our concerns with regard to the drainage in the parking lot. And, I'm not worried about what venues they have there right now. Perhaps a concern about these, I don't know if these trucks that come in, these food trucks that come alongside the street have a drainage, require some sort of drainage system there, or they're self-contained, that they don't have any effluent from their fryers or the fryer laters on the street. I don't know that they really do that, but I'm pretty sure they're all self-contained.
Food truck operations are licensed separately and under separate regulations and can park anywhere they want based on whatever rules there are for that, regardless of who's in the building next to them. Right?
No, certainly no concern for us. I said the only concern for us is the parking area along Water Street. And as I said, we can go with the idea that we will revisit this in a later, allow them to go forward with the application, but without indicating that it's consistent with the harbor management plan until further information is available. I'd certainly like to move on if necessary. What?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the plan as submitted with the previous comments.
That we'd have no objection, John, not approve it.
Not approval. No objection for the project to move forward. That's all.
No objection with the understanding, with the stormwater management understandings.
Yes.
Oh.
That is what we have in the application.
I'll second that.
All right. So I mean, in our previous letter, it says the Harbor Management Commission approved a motion to express no objection to the applicant's proposal, provided the zoning commission determines, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our opening statement.
Yeah.
Who was the second?
Dennis Santella.
Santella.
Oh, I guess I'm muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all right, Dennis.
I can hear you, Dennis.
Yeah. All right. Well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Not in this case here. All right. We'll move forward with that one then. And I think that is it. Other than, I don't know, Jeff, let's see, we're going to be, as far as the application, we're going to be meeting with, we're going to set up a meeting with Mr. Grzlinski, hopefully next week, to discuss our turbidity issue, the data that was collected by the DOT, and view that information with Mr. Grzlinski at the DEP. So that's yet to be set up. Sometime next week, we'll meet with him and discuss those issues with him, and hopefully move forward with that. And then we're going to hear from the DOT. The DOT has sent a letter requesting meeting in August, at our August meeting, to discuss the Manresa and Walk Bridge project.
I think that's the big issue, John, because well, no, I don't think. I mean, we talked about this, that the DOT has submitted a revised permit application in June, but we still have not had an opportunity to hear from DOT about that revision, or to provide any comments to DEEP. And I think after the last meeting, we wrote to DEP asking them not to take any action on this until we have a chance to hear what the revisions are, and provide our comments.
Right. We have not had a response from our letter.
We've not had a response, so we may want to follow up on that, because if we don't meet until the end of August to review the proposed changes, and the revised application was submitted at the end of June, and that's 2 months, and for all we know, it would be tentatively approved by the time we have an opportunity to comment on it.
Well, I
think that's the big issue, John.
Well, the other caveat to all this too is that why they removed the Manresa project from their website. Don't know. I didn't get a response for Chris from that either.
But that's all part of the issue of needing to hear from them why and how they've modified their original submittal.
Right. It seems like we're always being put the cart before the horse on all this, on this whole issue. We're so, constantly behind the gun, and I'm sure this is the ploy that they have to try to run this thing through.
But it's the idea is it's not just an exercise for us to be notified of what their plans are. There's a review process, and our comments should mean something.
Well, they should, and I think
we should have an opportunity to review it and make the comments, not just be told what the project is.
That should preface any meeting that we have with them, to express our disconcern with the whole process moving forward. They went ahead and submitted the application. Shellfish Commission nor Harbor Commission had no opportunity to sort of make comment, and even public comment with regard to that meeting that they had with the public regarding the Manresa staging area, and nothing really has been commented on by them.
Wow.
So, but they did at least bring forward, instead of moving to September, which the original letter was, they wanted to have our meeting in September. And then we got an email from Chris Samarachek indicating that the DOT would like to discuss the issue on our next meeting in August, which will be August 26th.
All right, well, we'll look forward to
That's all.
that.
I mean, we know if the new EAIE, whatever the document they produce, is on their website. It had been on the website, and then it went down.
Right.
The previous version was removed, around the time they announced the public meeting and all that. And I've checked back, but not recently. I'm trying to do that now to even see if there is a copy of this revised document available. Has it been submitted to us formally?
Yeah.
That's a different matter. And the way we understood it from talking with the DOT representatives when we were discussing the vessel relocation plan with them, and maybe this has changed, but they were not planning on revising the EA. They were planning on submitting a letter to the federal agency essentially saying that it was not necessary to revise the EA because the revisions that they're proposing would be less impactful than in the original proposal, and so that there was going to be a more in the form of a letter, and I forget what they call it, to revisit the EA and get the federal agency to agree. But that was one of our questions: that is that letter and the response, is that subject to review or to public review? And so we don't know the answer to that, Chris.
So we don't even have whatever this document they're submitting. We don't even have that in mind.
No, nothing's been submitted to us. And again, that's different than the big deep revised permit application, which is hundreds of pages long. And that's why DEEP had, I think Mr. Grzywinski's words were, strongly advised DOT to come back to the Harbor and Shellfish Commissions and make a presentation as to what has changed from the original application. And so that's what we're looking forward to talking with them about.
That would be August, hopefully been the August meeting.
Yes, and then the Shellfish Commission would be meeting at the first Thursday in September to hear this. And then we would, I don't think it's reasonable to say that we would be able to provide revised comments, the next day or the next week.
That's correct.
Reasonable to take another month and then in September provide our comments. And then also along with this is how does this fit in with the timing or the status of the Eversource proposal? And we have heard nothing about that. So we're trying to do the best we can.
Best we can is we're trying to meet also with the city engineer. I think Vanessa, I'm forgetting her last name, has certainly should have some information with regard to the Eversource project, but we haven't heard anything from her.
So we might want to follow up with Mr. Grzywinski again, John.
Well, I think-
Tell him what we know the schedule is now for DOT to come back to the Harbor Commission in August.
Yeah.
And be clear with DEEP as to how our review and that presentation fits in with the regulatory process.
Well, he did hang over their head about issuing a notice of, what was that, a notice of insufficiency? The
Well,
application?
that's what DEEP would do at some point.
Right.
But, how does that fit in with being able to get comments from the Harbor Commission?
No,
And then how does that fit in with the overall schedule for the work?
They're gonna lose their window. Their window is December. They're gonna lose it again.
Well, that's a window for the temporary signal cables, John. But they were anticipating that they would have the permits, I believe, in place to do this work, at the beginning of next year. But there's just many unknowns, and that's why it would be good to just have a discussion with Mr. Grzywinski about how this process is going to play out.
Well, when I need to send him I sent him one email with regard to meeting with him regarding the water turbidity issue in Norwalk Harbor and the data that was collected by the DOT and the data that was analyzed by Tom Hart. And then at the same time, request another, perhaps a phone conversation with him to discuss those issues.
Yeah.
All right. Well, other than that, that's.
So, John, pardon me for talking too much. I'll just say one thing and stop, if that's okay, about the Wilson Avenue project.
Oh, right. I forgot about that one. That's right. They had a public hearing on that one.
Yeah, I listened to the public hearing, and it was very interesting. And the zoning commissioners asked good questions about the proposal. And Mr. Kleppen also made a very, very good review comments on it. And as a result, the hearing is continued to August 6th. But listening to it, there were several things, interesting things, at least in my opinion, or questions that are relevant not just to this, but to other applications as well. And one is how the Harbor Commission's comments are actually considered in these sorts of hearings by the Zoning Commission. Now, in listening to this Wilson Avenue proposal, the attorney for the applicant, mentioned that the Harbor Commission and the other agencies and departments had been, they had done their review, and the implication is sort of that they've all signed off on them. But the commission, the Harbor Commission, had no objection to this moving forward, but also expressed concerns about the potential runoff of metals and other pollutants from the site into the wetlands. So that wasn't brought up at the meeting, and hence the need for the make sure that there are adequate protections. And so I asked Mr. Kleppen, I haven't heard back from him, when the Harbor Commission submits a letter like that, how are the comments entered into the record of the hearing? Do the zoning commissioners get those comments and have a chance to know what they are? So in other words, with this proposal, just using it as an example, the applicant was arguing that this is a project that won't be impactful because it's using an already disturbed site. But that implies that it's not, what takes place isn't going to run off and go into the wetlands nearby. So I mean, it'd be interesting to see how our comments are actually transmitted to the zoning commissioners. And then the other thing, which is more a matter of, and they did mention that they need to get approval for this deep general permit, which we would have a chance to review. But the other thing that is more of a Shellfish Commission matter, there was a discussion about the impact of runoff into Village Creek on shellfish beds. And the applicant's attorneys mentioned that, well, there are none of the shellfish beds that are nearby are open. But I think that's not the issue. The issue is not just is there an open shellfish bed, but the whole area is a shellfish resource. It has the wetlands and the intertidal flats and the water qualities to support shellfish, and as well as the populations of the shellfish. So when an applicant says, well, there's no open shellfish beds nearby, I think we got to Shellfish Commission has to make clear that that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because there are shellfish, everything's a shellfish resource.
Steve, I think you've made those comments several times before, so that is a comment that Steve has always made in these applications.
Yeah, but how does the zoning, what effect does it have on the zoning board? If we put it in a letter and send it to the zoning board,
Because all our,
they never see it, so what?
we send our letters, a copy is always sent to Kleppen and Bryan. But now what do they?
The question is, John, how do they do? What do they do with that?
That's correct.
Do they send it to the zoning board? Because they didn't mention the concerns we had in this public hearing.
All right. That's an interesting point, and I think maybe that's something we have to pursue with the zoning.
Yeah, we asked Steve, so Steve will get back to us on that, I'm sure.
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's an excellent point, because they do get the letters, they do get copies of all their letters, but again, what do they do with those letters?
But this application, the implication was that this isn't a problem because it's using a already disturbed site.
That's irrelevant.
But right next to the disturbed site is a valuable coastal wetland and intertidal tidal area. So the issue isn't what's on the site; it's whether what's on the site gets off of it, and that's why we were arguing for the protection.
If I can interject, I got a call from Brian Baker, and he asked me if there were shellfish beds there, and I said yes, but they are not active. And he said, "Are you sure there's shellfish in the area?" I said, "Absolutely." So, but the Planning Commission is aware of that.
Yes. I mean, the part adjacent to Village Creek neighborhood where I live is stoked with oysters and mussels and clams. And then the recreational beds start at Cedar Hammock, which is, I just scaled it off, it's a mile from the site and directly downstream. And then after that is the commercial beds.
Right, that area is a clear tract that's been identified in Superior Court as part of the commission's jurisdiction since 1882.
Well, Jeff, I'll tell you, that's an excellent point, and I think that's something we need to pursue with Mr. Kleppen, because
he'll get back to us.
Letters are sent out, and they're again fully commented on, that we don't know whether it gets here. It's sort of set on deaf ears or not. You're right.
Or filed and forgotten, which is
that's it, right? Exactly.
Not even brought to people's attention.
Or go on a checklist and say, yes, we did receive comment from the North Harbor Management Commission in October. That's just
but
box off, right? But they don't address how they responded to the right.
Because I think what would have been helpful at this hearing was not that you went through the Harbor Commission review process and you have a letter, but the Harbor Commission is concerned about the proximity of the site to the intertidal area. Right. And the concern that of runoff of metals and other contaminants into the area.
Right.
That I think would have been a proper comment to make it at a hearing like this.
I agree.
But anyway, I'll stop, John. Thanks for letting me talk.
All right. Well, Jeff, no, excellent points. I think we'll definitely follow up with Mr. Kleppen on that. All right. Well, other than that, I think that will conclude our application review, John.
Just
Thank you very much, John. Good meeting.
Walk Bridge website, and they do have a revised application, revised structures dredging and fill application from June, which presumably encompasses their revised Manresa plan. So if we want to look at that to have more directed questions, I think I will certainly look at it.
Okay, let's get this second part of the combined meeting going. I know we don't have too much stuff going on here because we have some missing. We're missing Greg tonight. He had, I would have thought maybe some holes to fill in. Maybe some of us could, who are in the know, can do that. So let's get the thing started. Do you need to do a roll call? Again, you'll have everybody down. That's good. We've done the pledge. really nothing has happened as far as the chairman's report is concerned, other than Alan brought to my attention, because of my lack of sign up on local news media or paying attention to it because of other areas that I'm busy in, that we just received a $400,000 grant on Friday from the federales, from I believe, from the Homeland Security, based on the fact that we have a working, active harbor, and 150,000 of it, as I recall, is going to go directly to the purchase of a new, used, refurbished boat for the Norwalk Marine Police, and they're going to replace the 2 rig boats that they do have, and then sell them outright. I think we should be making a plea to the mayor, although there may be a little struggle because it's the police department's budget that I guess it would impact, because if they sell those were police boats, the money would go back into their budget for their use. But so maybe if it's going to go to public to bid, maybe we, on the behalf of the city, should be bidding it and speaking to the powers to be to find out how that process would work, because both those boats seem to be in fairly good shape. And it would be a nice addition for the replacement for our boat that needs, and shellfish that we share that needs, constant attention and repair. And the age of it is such that we need to upgrade to a certain degree. And I know we've talked about it, and we're putting it in our future budgets, but this could be an opportunity. I want everybody to keep that in mind. They're not getting a new boat immediately, but I'm assuming it'll be somewhere within the next 90 days. So if we can address it and put it on the agenda for next month to have a discussion on this, how we want to proceed. In the meantime, I'll drop an email off to the mayor, expressing that we may have an interest, and if there's any help forthcoming from the city, it would be great.
John, just a thought. When the present shellfish boat was purchased, one of the deciding factors of purchasing that boat was having a shallow draft so that the Marine Police or the shellfish wardens could get into where people were shellfishing. I don't think any of the Marine Police boats right now have that option. I think they're drawing 3.5, maybe 4 feet of water.
I don't know. We need to get the actual number. I mean, my 50-foot used to draft 3'6". So, and those boats aren't 50 feet. So it depends on the hull configuration.
Correct.
So we need to explore that. That could easily, those conversations could be easily had. And we'd want to know also what kind of condition they're in, if they're worth pursuing. We could get an old Bayou flatboat too. That would help with a couple of sticks, Steve. You guys could get into the shellfish beds. But it's something to think of for the future to keep on our radar. There is no report from Greg Scully, but does anybody have any updates on that abandoned boat? What has taken place? Because the time's elapsed. And then
None.
You know anything, Dennis?
No, I don't. It's in the hands of Corporation Counsel, I believe.
Okay, and that was supposed to be I think, probably 10 days ago, the Friday before last.
It's a deadline.
Was the deadline. So I know future-wise, they were waiting for space on land to be available, and that most likely could be Cove Marina. And that's where it would be wind up, put on dry dock, and then sent out to auction. Unless it was redeemed and fines were paid. So anything else possibly? Anybody have any other input or information for the harbor itself? Hearing none. Jeff Stedman, you're next up on the agenda.
Just a question, John. The letter that we wrote to the planning or the Parks and Recreation Director asking for information about the operation of the visitors dock. And I guess we haven't heard a response back from.
No, well, I haven't seen any. I don't know what their agenda is. I think all of that, including beach use, is fluid. It's evolving. Depends on the temperature that day of the mayor. Those are edicts that come down from the top. I don't think it's anything to do with Parks and Recs and Park themselves in general. I think it's edicts from the mayor or his menu.
And the other thing I might mention is that Tony Mobilia and I have prepared a reformatted, I guess, the harbor management plan for the website and for distribution. The plan document that's on the city website now shows or highlights the most recent changes, which of course were 10 years ago. So we prepared a clean copy of that. So maybe at the next month's meeting, we should, before posting that back on the website, we should share that with everybody. But we haven't changed any of the substance of the plan. We've just reformatted it and taken out the strikeouts and the underlines. And
should we not be considering, maybe in committee, if there
Yes.
are any updates that are due to be done, because it's 10-year, everything. 10 years like a tradition for everything.
I think that's a good idea, John. And I think we also want to, and I know I said I was going to stop talking, but this issue of the extent to which DEEP or state officials are bound by the Harbor Commission's recommendations. I think we want to emphasize that and make it clear that pursuant to the general statutes, a recommendation of the Harbor Management Commission that's supported by the policies of the plan is binding on state decisions.
Yeah,
Now,
that
we've
has to be made bold, very, very bold in the document. And
Yes,
maybe throughout the document.
Yeah, it's in several places, John. But we've had discussions with DEEP and arguments about this, about whether, what's binding. Is it a recommendation that's in the plan and spelled out ahead of time, or is it the recommendation that the commission makes when reviewing something? And we've used the issue of the railroad bridge as a perfect example of this. The plan doesn't say how the bridge is to be rebuilt, but it has policies to protect water quality and water dependent uses and public access, and that's what we're basing our decisions on. And more recently, in the last,
am I mistaken that the Harbor Commission plan is by virtue of state statute?
Oh, yeah.
So if it's state statute, because DEEP leadership and DEEP, whoever they're under within the design of the government changes. Statute,
John, this is the big issue.
changes.
Yeah, this is the big issue that we've had discussions with DEEP about. But in the last 3 years, there have been several new plans, harbor management plans, 2 new plans approved by the state and 1 update in other towns. And the language that DEEP has approved is what I just said, that it's a recommendation of the Harbor Management Commission pursuant to the plan that's binding. And that's what we have to emphasize. And there's actually, and it's been delayed because of the virus, there's a lawsuit in Stamford Superior Court. We talked about this. And a guy in Greenwich is aggrieved by his neighbor's dock, which some people might say is a trivial matter. But one of the issues being considered is the extent to which the Harbor Commission in Greenwich's recommendations are taken into consideration by DEEP. So the concern there is that the Superior Court could make a decision that diminishes municipal harbor management authority, and that's why the legal office in the town of Greenwich has intervened in that. We might want to talk with Norwalk's legislators about making a statutory change to take away any ambiguity or whatever you want to call it, uncertainty about that.
I think this conversation should be in committee.
Yeah, all right, sorry, John.
All right, and for logical reasons, I agree with you, but it depends on what basis that lawsuit is, whether they're looking to usurp the use of and the commands of the Harbor Commission, or they're gonna overturn and overrule a specific isolated issue that might be an encroachment. So we can get into that in committee, though, I think.
Yeah, all right.
Excuse me, Chairman, I know there was a Pete Lepac that was supposed to be in on this meeting. There is a Pete under attendees that has his hand raised. I don't know if
it's 418.
Huh?
It's the phone number 418.
There's no phone number. It's just the name Pete. So I'm going to allow him to talk for a second to see if that's him.
It's probably Pete Johnson.
Oh, probably Pete Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Pete. Hello, Pete. You had your hand up. You're allowed to speak. All right.
Well,
I guess not. I'm going to disable talking. Okay.
That's one of the nicest conversations I've had with Pete in a long time. If he needs to get in, he's certainly welcome at any time. Moving right along. Jeff, you have anything else that you want to add?
No, John, no.
Okay. Shellfish Commission?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's get the report from Pete Johnson, I think. No, all right, Steve, go ahead. You go ahead.
Thanks, John. So both commissions may wish to consider an additional allocation of funds for Professor Hart and the aforementioned presentation to DEEP with respect to the turbidity analysis that he has wonderfully completed. Something we will certainly bring up on the 3rd. Second point, I remember with respect to the 310 Wilson Avenue proposal that this commission's decision last month was based on changes that would have been made to the second iteration of the plan as recommended by DPW. The Shellfish Commission isn't in receipt of the tertiary plan, and I'm just wondering if this commission has received a final plan from this applicant. Okay. Quickly going through, recreational shell fishing is open in Norwalk. Take a look at your tide charts. Not super tides this weekend, but they are in the afternoon. We did receive a pier, ramp, and floating dock application from Mr. Hiltz for 28 and a half Shorefront Park. So please look for an invitation from me sometime in August around a low tide, such that we could do a site inspection.
We did receive that as well, and that will go forward to the full commission, to our the application review. We just did that the other day, right?
Thanks, John. Again, we'll be meeting on the 3rd of September. DOT is already on our docket. We have asked that the questions that were submitted by both commissions during the public meeting on June 16th be answered prior to this meeting and that they be posted publicly. We'll see if that happens. The Shellfish Commission also wrote a letter to Mr. Michael Grzywinski at DEEP requesting that he and the department take no action until such time that the Shellfish Commission could review this revised application. No response from him nor the department. We also sent an email to Eversource, to Mr. Ian Cole, just asking for a status update from them, and there was no response. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back, and please eat Norwalk shellfish and support your local restaurants.
Moving right along. Application review is done. Mooring and harbor safety, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under the Mooring Committee, The renewal applications are continuing to come in for 2020 season. And the committee continues to address any issues or concerns that the season progresses, as the season progresses. We have 46 approved applications, 33 applications under review. All applications are reviewed and emails are sent to each applicant listing their missing documents such as registration, insurance, tackle inspection, and or payment. Under
Right, so, excuse me 1 second, Dennis. Pete Johnson did want her to speak, but no one sent him the link. So can somebody?
I can resend him the link.
Okay,
Let me just make sure I have his correct email address here. No, he wasn't on the list of the initial panelists. I can add him.
Yes,
He should have been.
on there,
But I need his email address.
Steve. You're mic'd. You're muted. Steve.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking it up. It's Pete1020j@gmail.com.
Okay, Dennis, I'm sorry. I apologize for the interruption.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. Under harbor safety, I really have no report. I have not received any issues or concerns regarding the harbor safety, the Marine Police or the harbor. We touched on this earlier. That concludes my report.
How's the mooring money doing?
The last good-sized piece of money was, or check was Sprite Island. I'm still waiting for the other two managed fields to submit their last check. The problem is, and I know Matt probably could share some of the information on this, but they don't, it takes quite a while to get into the season before they realize how many boats they have and where they are and what they are. So I know, Matt, you didn't send in a list of moorings for your field. You sent the check in, and I assume that's coming when you know it.
That actually should have been attached to it, was it not?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, I'll email that over to you.
Just didn't do that. But we just had the two other mooring fields. We're waiting for checks, and that's the bulk of our money.
With the pandemic, Dennis, I mean, are we seeing numbers up, down, sideways?
Well,
as far as moorings, of personal moorings,
the number of moorings we have this year are less than last year. They've been reducing every year. So you might say we're in a negative spin here, but
Dennis, what I think you should explore are several locations in town that's city-owned property that maybe we can even charge a little more for, to have a little dinghy basis to make it more convenient for people to use the moorings.
Well, that was discussed, Alan. I think you were involved with that as well, and I think you talked to didn't you talk to planning and zoning about something like that or whatever? I don't remember.
I know behind we're talking about the transient moorings, to have something behind the Donovan shack on where the
issue with the transient
launch.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so have something there, but there are other locations in town too, because the moorings are spread all over.
So what I'm not sure what you're saying. You mean regular moorings? You're looking for?
Well, for transient, we had talked about doing something at Vets Park.
Well,
have a spot. Have a spot to put dinghies. But the regular moorings, would the case be, not everybody's a Tony Mobilia that likes to go out and exercise and lug his dinghy and bring it in, out, whatever. if you made it more convenient for people to utilize the mooring system, if they had a place to keep their transportation to and from their boat, would that make more sense or help, do you think, looking towards the future?
Been doing this, I haven't heard too much requests for dinghy space, to be honest with you. People somehow get out there and do their thing. I'm not saying it wouldn't attract people. I probably would. I would prefer right now to thrust to be with the transient moorings, solve that dinghy problem, and then maybe we can continue to expand it.
Well, we got to work on that. Greg was supposed to work on it. I was hoping to get something going this season with the transients, but you know, this pandemic flu is or virus has really put a kink in a lot of progressive ideas and thoughts.
Right.
Except the wrong ones.
My experience in the Long Island Sound right now, it's not difficult to find a transit mooring anywhere. There's not a whole lot of demand for that. Traveling around, they're easy to get. So, and I don't know what Steve's experience is with renting the 5 Mile River moorings, if they're in demand or not so much.
Yeah, we've decided to close, and we're going to revisit them for September. So the 5 Mile River Commission transient moorings are not currently open.
But from John's point, I think that I asked Steve Tuppen for an inventory of land that is designated as coastal access or public access to coastal areas. And he hasn't been able really to get back. I mean, he doesn't really know. We had some ideas of how to figure that out, but it doesn't seem to me the city knows that or is willing to share that information. But there are a lot of places out in front of Shore and Country Club. We had a guy who had a City of Norwalk mooring that he was trying to launch his boat, his dinghy on the Shore and Country Club's launch ramp. And you know, he's prohibited from doing that. But right over Shore and Country Club's fence is a public access to the water. There's room to park 4 or 5 cars there on the street. There's the person that has the house there has fixed it all up with a flagpole and made that public access look like his front yard. But the reality is that's public access, and there's nothing that would prevent us from putting a little float out there and access to roll your dinghy there and put it in and tie it up and things like that. So I think we need to pursue that because I think it would help with just the city moorings. If you have an easy way to get to your mooring, depending on where it is in the harbor. I think there must be a lot of places, Fitch Point and out in Marvin Beach, where the ends of these streets are all public access. And there's room to park a couple cars. I just think we could attract more seasonal mooring people that way.
Now, another example would be, I know at the end of 2nd Street, that goes right into the water at that point, and you could have access for parking there. And I'm sure there's probably the same situation at 3rd, 4th Street, 5th Street, or any one of those streets. And that's pretty convenient. So that's something to keep in mind.
Except it's convenient, except those neighborhoods are putting up signs saying private property, which it's not.
I don't think that's true.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. I mean, down 5th Street it is. It's just no beach access. You can't.
Not down there. But 2nd Street there is, right? Where 3rd Taxing District is.
But beach.
Well, so was the plan to work up a map of all the public access points of all public property along the harbor front?
I thought we have that. We have that in our harbor management plan. In the harbor management plan, we do have public access points.
We haven't updated that in a while, John. It's a good exercise to do now, I think, again, because there are probably some other areas that have been, since the plan, have been designated for public access. Maybe through, yeah, I'm sure there are through new developments since the plan. That's a good project to do.
Yeah, a lot of them, I'm sure, have been gentrified. The people that have whose land abuts that have just finished it as off as if it's part of their yard.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes uncomfortable for somebody like me to just drive up and park and walk down to the shore because I'm traipsing through somebody's garden party or something like that.
I'll do the exercise of going to the old maps, the harbor management plan, comparing that to the GIS information that is actually available now. And some of that is over here on my side of the harbor. Try to get over the other side too, to at least scope it out, but at least go through the GIS, because that will tell you what's public and what's private, street ends, et cetera. And then, I don't know how you make that information public and how you allow people to secure dinghies, but that's a whole nother exercise, but yeah.
Can you share that information with me, Chris, or tell me how to get to the GIS data?
No, just Google Norwalk GIS. It's a city website. And then every lot is clickable and it will tell you who the owners are.
It's my understanding that the town of Branford has put up street signs indicating their access ways.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
John,
my fear is once that stuff gets kind of gets all owner occupied, that it's kind of going to be gone forever, not utilized.
John, another solution, the town of Northport actually used to have a launch that would come out and pick people up from the moorings. All you had to do was radio in and the launch would motor out and pick you up. I don't know if they still have it, but they did have it, I think it was 3 years ago.
So I think it takes an entrepreneur to kind of run that. I mean, it costs money to maintain the boat. You have to have a licensed captain if you're moving people for hire. So it's not a simple issue. And I was just over at Port Jeff for a few days ago, and Murphy's Marine has a water taxi, but it's got a licensed skipper. They come by radio and they'll take you anywhere for $20 a head each way. So it's not inexpensive either.
Moving right along. Finance, Tony Mobilia.
Yeah, I have good news and I have some even better news. So the good news is that we paid all our bills this month. Our revenues came out to $2,526, and that included the yacht, Sprite Island Yacht Club. Our expenditures were $9,210.49 if you're counting, and that included Telesco, online mooring application. Actually, in the revenues, the online mooring sent us $1,490. But going back to the expenditures, we paid all our bills, and that, like I say, came out to $9,010. And we have a balance this month. We have a balance this month of $880.20 if you're counting pennies. So now the better news is that I just found out today that our grant was approved for the $20,000, and now I have to go through some sort of a invoice to get that money put into our account. So I'm in the process of getting that information. So all in all, we're in pretty good shape, and we have Jeff paid up at least until January 1st, 2020. In other words, for 2019, he's paid, except we still owe him some expenses. So that'll be probably within the next month. And when I get the money for the grant deposited into the account, then we'll be all set to move on to 2020. And so that'll leave us some money for some of the why can't I think of the word? For Tom Hart, let's put it that way. Okay, so that's it pretty much.
Thank you, Tony.
So I'll let everybody know when we're finally solvent, completely solvent. That's it for me. Sounds like I stunned everybody with the money, right?
All right, that's it, John? I mean,
Yeah,
Tony?
that's it.
Just to let everyone know, I invited Pete, but I don't see him on. I do have his email is Pete, P-E-T-E 1020j@gmail.com.
That's correct.
Okay.
Wouldn't be like him to give up.
All right. Jeff Mangles is not here with us for a plan review. Is, Matt, do you have anything to add? You're on that committee as well?
Yeah, we've been trying to nail down a couple of the parties to have another meeting, specifically some of the commercial side on the Rex and the Cove. They said that August frees up for them a little bit better. And so we're trying to nail down if it can be actually socially distanced in person, or if it's going to be via Zoom, or just how that's going to go. So I haven't heard back from them in about a week and a half in terms of dates and times, but I
That makes sense.
We're going to stay on top of them.
Newsletter and website, Alan?
No report.
Joe Schneerling,
Yep,
water quality.
yep. We discussed having a draft for a water use policy in Norwalk. We should be able to finalize that this next meeting. And then it will be sent to whoever is involved with planning and water supply for the city of Norwalk. And while I'm on that subject, and before my old mind forgets it, Jeff did send out a notice to us about a meeting that should be coming up for Aquarian. It does not involve Norwalk directly, but it's Aquarian transporting water to the surrounding towns. Jeff, did you send it out to everybody else?
No, but this is Aquarian, I guess, their plan B after withdrawing the proposal to utilize the Wilton well fields last year. So it's for the same purpose, to bring water to Stamford, New Canaan, Darien, and Greenwich during times of drought. They're just taking it from a different, instead of the Wilton well fields, they'll be taking it from, they propose to take it from reservoirs in Fairfield and Easton, I guess.
But they also doubled
yeah.
volume.
Yes, and so we used, the Fairfield Harbor Commission essentially used the same type of letter that the Norwalk Harbor Commission wrote last year or the year before, asking for a public meeting to allow people to question Aquarian, and the DEP agreed. So the difference is this will be a remote meeting, but the same issues apply. You know, to what extent does conservation fit into Aquarian's long-range plans, especially now that I guess they have quite an interest in selling water because the demand is. But anyway, so we borrowed what we did in Norwalk and applied it again in Fairfield, and got the same result, at least as far as the meeting goes.
Okay, and we also discussed the online public meeting we had with the Department of Transportation in regards to Manresa, but you already heard that. We had no communication with Eversource, and we had no communication with Deep, and we had no communication with the Department of Transportation in regards to the bridge project. Jeff and I did talk about this turbidity measurements and the walk bridge and the Department of Transportation and their 3 monitoring sites. Consultant Tom Hart has analyzed the data that they sent in, but I personally have an issue with the data because the data is not from standardized stations, specifically the upper level data, should be 1 meter from the surface. And they did not do that. They have it established at a midpoint in the tidal cycle, which means it could be significantly below the tide, the high tide mark, as well as not even close to it. So the question here is, can they do it right in order for us to benefit from this turbidity data? And we need to know that because plankton vertically migrate, and they migrate to a level of source of light that they best metabolize. And they also do it to avoid predation, so that plankton don't stay in the upper foot, or upper meter. They'll drop down during certain periods of the day, and then they'll rise. And the zooplankton will follow the phytoplankton up and down. And it's like an old calliope where they're going up and down all day long. And if you don't have that upper setting, you'll never get significant data there. Diane LaRochelle said it may benefit to meet with Code Enforcement Committee to express concerns we have over the developments and the extent of development that the city is going to have, and that's in regards to planning for water use. If we're going to have a 10 to a 20% raise in population, I don't know if our water supplies can handle that. And Tom Closter said the Director of Health has daily briefings with the mayor's office, and this is in regard to water use. The reservoirs didn't receive any available precipitation from the recent rains, and the mayor mentioned conserving water in his daily briefing. And that's it. Our next meeting is August 6th.
Joe, can I intervene? The information you provided about the DOT's measurements is very disconcerting because Tom Hart had put together and taken that data and had generated some, what we thought was some valuable information to discuss with DEP.
Yep.
If there's a problem, there's a flaw in those data, that sort of sets everything back on the type of information that we're trying to acquire.
I've been saying that all along, and I haven't stopped saying it. You should have a bottom sample, you should have a surface sample, and then there should be something in the middle. And that's standardized for taking most samples in a marine environment.
Well, we don't have any solid, when I say solid data from the bottom with regard to what is being plumed up, if for that matter. Correct. Tide changes, other than the data that Dr. Breslau, is it Breslau or Breslin? Breslin provided us, well, actually provided during a, I guess he did a study with one of his students that was submitted for presentation at, I forget what meeting, but in any event, we have those data. But other than that, we have no information. And Mr. Hart was actually was interested in acquiring some particle size data, that was missing in the equation. So we're putting together a presentation. Joe, well,
we need to involve Joe, John.
I was going to say, we're going to meet with him. Well, we're going to try to put a meeting together with Mr. Brzezinski sometime next week, Monday, August 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. That we have to figure out what day he's available. But Tom Hart has gotten the data together for presentation. We have a PowerPoint presentation to discuss that with him. And Shellfish, Bureau of Aquaculture wants to participate as well. I mean, we have Steve, myself, Jeff, Mr. Guzlinski, hopefully, and Mr. And who else? So we have one, two.
Mr. Gagne from Deep.
Gagne from Deep, and also obviously Tom Hart. So I'll have them on a Zoom meeting sometime next week. And certainly, Joe, would like to have you participate on this because the data that we generated, we'd like to have for when we monitor the harbor during the construction period.
But we didn't generate any data, John. The data was generated by DOT.
That's right. But then the data, if the data is flawed, then so are those results. And that's what caught my ear, Joe.
Yeah, I agree. But I've been telling DOT that all along. When I first heard that they didn't attach the top float, the top monitor to a dock, that told me that they have a variable that's going to be unpredictable. It'll be predictable, but it's an extra variable in calculating the data and the results.
Well,
because it won't be 1 meter from the surface. You'll have a monitor that is probably 8 or 9 feet down, and it at one point could be covered by 1 or 2 feet of water, and in other cases it could be covered by 6 or 8 feet of water, and that's an extra variable rather than determining what plankton are going to rise to the surface, because the surface isn't there all the time.
Well, this is all very disconcerting, Joe. Now, how can we?
Let's have a discussion about it, John. That's part of the discussion.
All right. I agree. Because, we talk about the type of, the numbers that were generated by the DOT, I'm hoping they can be salvaged.
Well, the lower numbers can.
Well, could the measurements be used as their own control, basically? Whatever starting point you have, some value above that, whatever that turbidity unit that we call for, above what the baseline fluctuation is, because he's got wind, tide, and let's see what else.
Rainfall
data, all combined with regard to the numbers that he's been generating. So. Well, anyway, we can talk about that, Joe.
Yep.
All right. Wow. All right.
Okay, moving right along. Is there any public comment? I don't see anyone else here other than us's. So we'll go to the approval of the minutes. The minutes were sent out ahead of time. Anybody have any changes that are necessary in the minutes?
Chris, you had some, didn't you have some? You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, I made the changes, John.
Yes, I noted that we requested the report from, this is for the 310 Wilson Ave, that we had requested the report on the test pitting for the drainage there to see if, and I don't think we have received that as yet, have we?
No.
Yeah, I made those changes there, Chris.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Well, do you want to accept the minutes as?
Yeah, we should approve the minutes.
Accept the minutes as corrected.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? So moved. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, nice meeting. No matter how much we have on the agenda, if it's just a little bit or a lot, we still seem to finish at the same time. So look forward to seeing you guys next month.
Okay.
Hopefully, maybe with a little bit of luck, we can do it in person. If not, we'll Zoom away. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Ciao.
Take care now.
Take care.
Be safe.
Yep.